Good afternoon. Today I'll be talking about the figures of speech in English and what functions the figures of speech do have in English literature or in English language or in communication. They're twofold. The reasons twofold. The first reason why the poets and the novelists, largely the poets, they use the figures of speech is simply they have the aesthetic value. The figures of speech that they have the aesthetic value. That means when you are studying your necklace with certain gems like diamonds, like rubies, like emeralds, it looks beautiful. The necklace looks more beautiful. So they're like jewelries. Figures of speech, they're like jewelries that you use to make that particular necklace or your speech or your words look more beautiful. So it does have an aesthetic value. Firstly, so figures of speech, they're used firstly because they have the aesthetic value. They will make your words look or make your words to be heard more beautiful to the ears of the audience. The first one, therefore, that we use, the first function of figures of speech is ornamentational, that we use them as jewelries or ornaments. As we use jewelries to look beautiful, likewise we use figures of speech to make our speech look and to be heard beautifully to the audience. This is the first function of figures of speech. And the second function of figures of speech, which is the primary function obviously, is to make ourselves more recognizable and more clear to the audience. So to make my meaning or ourselves, to make ourselves more clear to the audience, we are using figures of speech. So the twofold reasons I discussed, the first one is the purely ornamentational. It will make your words look beautiful. Your communication skill will be more entertaining to hear. And the second one is it will be making your communication more meaningful and clearer. So there will be a clarity associated with this. Now, coming to the basic and very significant figures of speech, we will be discussing similes and metaphors as at first. um, Metaphors, both similes and metaphors, they are the figures of speech which are based on the comparison. Now, when simile, both simile and metaphor are the comparison tools or the words which compare two different things or two different objects, those who are widely different from each other. So a simile or a metaphor will compare two different or distinct objects depending upon a certain common feature that they have. Otherwise, the two different things or different objects in question, they are widely different. And there is a slight difference between a simile and a metaphor. Why and how will you get to know a simile and metaphor? Here comes the answer. When you will be using a simile while comparing two different objects or different things, you will be widely using such words or such terms as like, like as seen on the shown on the screen, and as, a is as. So like and as, these are the two basic words which are used widely to identify a simile. So when you see like and as, is like very simple. In a particular word or a particular sentence, you will know that this is a simile. So simile is an explicit, I repeat, simile is an explicit comparison between two objects or two things, whereas a metaphor is implicit comparison between two different things. So a simile and metaphor, they are more or less the same. That is, they are they are the makers of comparison. They are the comparison tools. But one, that is simile, does it explicitly, or metaphor does it implicitly. So one is implicit comparison, that is metaphor, and a simile is an explicit comparison. So the example of a simile can be like, the rose is as blood as red. So when you are using that particular word, that is as, you're surely stating that this is a simile. The rose is as blood, as red as blood, means you are comparing the rose with blood, those who are quite different. Blood is like completely different from a rose. A rose is a flower. A blood is the elements in the biological elements that can be found in a body. So blood and rose, those who are completely different, they have been explicitly compared here in a simile. So likewise, you can say the shirt is as beautiful as or the shirt is as white as milk. So milk and a shirt, they're completely different things. The apparel, shirt, is being compared to a food. So the material, the food material, is completely different from the apparel material, but depending upon the color it does have, that the whiteness it does have, depending upon that specific feature, they are being compared. A shirt is being compared with milk. Now this is called simile because there is the existence of the word called as. The shirt is as white as milk. So there is as, and we can blindfoldedly say that this is a simile. But metaphor is, as I said, that it is an implicit comparison, and here on screen you can see the very particular figure of speech visible, called the phrase is called a couch potato. A couch potato is a person who is very lazy, who wants to spend his or her life doing nothing, almost, who doesn't like to work that much, and maybe who becomes a bit fatter. So couch potato, here we can see this furniture couch and this vegetable, that is potato. These two things are being compared to a particular person. A potato is compared to a person who does nothing. So but the comparison, there is no such word as like or as here to make the comparison more visible or more outspoken to you or more outheard to you. But there is a comparison, and the comparison is so subtle, and you cannot read it like as, or it's very not shown quite clearly or explicitly. It is not explicitly shown or heard, but you can very well see that there is a point of comparison between a potato and a human being. A potato, as it does nothing and it gets gets fatter on couch, so is a human being who does nothing, who is a lazy person sitting on a couch. So there is a comparison, but the comparison in a metaphor is very implicit. So I think the difference between a simile and metaphor is quite clear to you now. Now I'll be talking about another figure of speech which is called personification, and this picture on screen will be will be helpful to you, because here we can see a cactus over here, and this cactus is having a pair of eyes like a human being and hands, and it is wearing a hat. Now a cactus cannot be looking at you with a pair of eyes like a human being, or wearing a it does have a happy face. It is an example of personification because this is a non-human entity. this cactus is a non-human entity, and this non-human entity has been attributed with the qualities of a human being. That is, it can see like a human being with the eyes put on it, and it is protecting itself by us with a sun hat like a human being. So the attributes of the human beings are put on a non-human beings are called personification. And now next I'll be talking about hyperbole or the exaggeration. When you are using a particular description or you're narrating, you're giving a statement which is hyperbolic, that is much exaggerated than what it is. That is, you do it for the sake of emphasis. For example, as the picture shows, that the needle was this big. You want to convey the meaning that the needle was very big. You're not saying the needle was very big. You're saying the needle is this big, this big. A needle cannot be this big. But you're saying it for the sake of emphasizing the fact the needle was really big. This is the hyperbolic expression. So another figure of speech I will be dealing with today, and that's it. I think in my next classes I will be talking about other figures of speech. And here the one that I'll be discussing is called alliteration. Alliteration, as you can see, there is a line: busy, buzzing, the bee behaved beautifully. So busy, buzzing, the bee behaved beautifully. There is, undoubtedly, with blindfolded, the blindfolded people will also be saying that there is a particular sound recurringly coming or echoing to our ears, that is busy, buzzing, the bee behaved beautifully. Like bow sound is coming, reverberating to our ears, and this reverberation or this repetition, this particular sound repetition of the consonant sound, this is not vowel sound. Please remember, this is very specifically said that this is not the repetition of the vowel sound which makes an alliteration, but alliteration is the repetition of the consonant sound and the consonant sounds which will be placed on the initial initial of a word, or the initial of a word which is consonant, and if it comes on a repeated manner, then it is called alliteration. So busy, buzzing, the bee behaved beautifully. The consonant sound, that is ba, is coming, it's repeating, it's getting echoed and reverberated. That's why it's called alliteration. This is a beautiful figure of speech which is more like, using, giving us the feel, which will hit the five senses we have, at least more than two senses we have, that is audio as well as visual. Anyway, so thank you for listening. Today this is it. In my next classes I will be discussing about other figures of speech at hand. Thank you.